Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Hello and welcome to episode 334 of the AFTN podcast. I am the double-double of the preview show, Joe DC.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well, I'm joined by the pumpkin spice latte of AFTN. It's Gideon Hill.
That's my favorite drink. That bodes really well, Joe. I appreciate that.
It was actually a joke. I didn't realize. And the fair trade Colombian cold brew of the Whitecaps landscape.
That's okay.
Nicholas Ruprecht.
That's okay.
That South American
flair.
Yeah.
You could be a coffee that Freddie Montero would sell in his.
Or as Zach Meisenheimer likes, the Colombian.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Sounds like the kind of coffee he would have. Do Colombians do cold brew? It seems like a very North American thing.
Don't they have that? What's in that hot, like that tea thing they have?
That's Argentinian. Not matcha.
I think it's matcha.
Matcha?
Yeah. Someone tried to make me try that a few weeks ago, and for some reason
it's very nutritious.
Yeah. Isn't there trace amounts of cocaine in that?
You just say
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. This week's opening question, gentlemen. If you had to go on Dancing with the Stars with the Whitecaps player, who would you go with, Gideon?
I would go Lucas Venuto. He's got the hair, the Brazilian flair, unintentionally rhymed, and it seems to always have a move in his back pocket, beating defenders or even on the dance floor.
Certainly last week he had some moves.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, who would you go with?
I would go with Daniel Henry because, I think we'd have a good height. We could make a good box and frame for our dancing, I think.
Yeah, you're both probably... Well, he's at least 6 foot. You're 6'7"?
Yeah.
So, it would be a good match.
It would be good.
Trade-off.
Yeah. I took a completely different angle. I just don't want to be embarrassed. I'm a very bad dancer. So, who is the one player who could potentially dance worse than me? It's Brendan McDonough. That's who I would go with. And I'm just going to leave that there before I insult anyone even further. Gentlemen, it is Los Angeles Galaxy. Gone are the days of Robbie Keane and David Beckham and Landon Donovan. Is he still playing indoor?
I think he's playing indoor, right?
Yeah. He's signed with the team.
He's having one hell of a farewell tour. It seems like it's been going on
for 4 years.
Yeah, exactly. He is a legend, I guess. Yeah. I guess we're going to talk a lot about Zlatan in the preview because he is by far their best player. Like last week, he got both of their goals, 2 penalties. Do you guys see the penalties?
Yeah, the second one was very well taken. I feel like he saw Pozuelo's goal on Friday. He's like, I could do better than that.
Yeah.
And then just,
it would be a good statistical thing to look at, like the concentration of Panenka penalties. Yeah. Because like if you see someone do it, you must plant that seed in your mind.
But it's like but statistically, isn't it going down the middle is one of the best choices?
It could be, yeah. As a goal, like you're asking the goalkeeper to do nothing,
but you're also facing Zlatan, who's
But when he chipped the penalty, right? He didn't like run away and celebrate because it was quite a high Panenka. It wasn't like one of those low ones where he just rolls into the goal. So I felt like there was probably a second where he was like, "That's gonna hit the crossbar, or that might go over or something." And it was his second penalty of the game too.
Yeah.
I think he won both penalties if I recall in the game. The first one, one of the Portland defenders shouldered him in the back, and I think that was a legit penalty.
The second one, didn't he get kicked or something?
The second one, he was taken down by the goalkeeper.
That's right.
But it was one of those where he looked like he was already
Selling it
on the
a
way
little bit.
down, but the goalkeeper didn't win the ball. And to be fair, if the goalkeeper wasn't there, Zlatan probably would have run onto it. And he beat a bunch of players to get to the 6-yard box to win that penalty. So, I know it's sometimes penalty goals look like perhaps he didn't earn them, but he definitely earned those two, I think. And Nick, best striker in the league?
Yeah, I mean, right now, for sure. I think you'd be hard-pressed, I think, to find better strikers than him. I mean,
Martinez, maybe? But
Martinez.
Rooney?
Again,
Is he playing as a striker?
I mean, Altidore is up there.
It's the argument of who's healthy, though. Like, when Zlatan's healthy, he's on his best, and he's on the league's best. If Rooney's healthy, he's on his best. Same with Altidore as well, like you mentioned. Like, Martinez has stayed healthy, but it's the argument of who's healthy, who's staying hot, and who's scoring goals.
And in terms of teams, the support of a team to enable those strikers to do what they do, Martinez probably has the best infrastructure around him.
Not
this year.
Well, that's because
of the
I think it's it's still a work in progress.
But I think just to continue that point, Zlatan probably has the least amount of support, and he's getting it done still.
Yeah, he doesn't have a number. He doesn't have Giovanni Dos Santos in behind him anymore, who basically he ousted him anyways from the Galaxy. But
David ousted him.
Oh yeah. But yeah, he. Basically, we talked about this before. They had two strikers leave for Zlatan. Kamara and Gio Dos Santos both were gone because they had to make money for him. So less support, but again, he's still scoring goals 3 in 2 games, I think it is. So who needs other players?
And Nick, 3 wins and 1 loss to start the season under the new manager. It's Guillermo Sciletto, I guess?
Guillermo Sciletto,
yeah. He's
the former Columbus man.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played
won an MLS Cup there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
I was out of the loop on that one.
He's pretty. You should look up some of his
highlights
on YouTube because he's
really
good.
Managerial wise, he's a very
really good player.
bright. I guess prospect would be the right word. But they only lost 1 game. That was to Dallas, and Portland was probably the toughest test, and they came out from that with 3 points.
Yeah, I think they're trying to go back to the Galaxy of old, dominating.
It's a more competitive league now, but I think they certainly look competitive.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point about Portland being the toughest test, but they've had quite a bit of home games. I think they played 2 or 3 at home already, so that could play in the hands. But again, wasn't the most convincing win over Portland. It was only 2 penalties, but a win's a win. And that I have to mention that Portland goal though, that build-up play was
it was so nice.
It was like Argentina 2006 World Cup.
yeah, I know the one you're thinking of.
Yeah.
LA have started pretty well. Those penalties were.
But you have to earn those.
I think those were earned.
So there was play building up that was good that could have led to a win.
But. It's not like when Manchester United beat PSG and they just got a penalty, which was a penalty out of nowhere to get a penalty, to win the game. Yeah. But it was more of along the lines of. When you think of the rule of a penalty, that's why you get a penalty shot, because you felled him when he was in a really dangerous spot, right? Mm-hmm. It goes back to that kind of, I think, original rule thinking. 2 other players that have started the season very well, Leggett and Corona. Corona playing in the number 10 position, and Leggett in the deeper in a 4-2-3-1, which we'll talk about in a little bit. One of the few teams that the Whitecaps have played that have not stuck to one formation. They've actually tried 3 different formations, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Leggett's been around for a while, Gideon, and Corona is kind of a newer. I think he's a newer, unknown quantity. What are your thoughts on the kind of the backup
midfield
cast?
Yeah. Well, Leggett, it's really kind of more of his coming up party this year, if you will. He kind of played a little bit of a wide mid role under Bruce Arena. Then the coaching shuffle last year was defensive midfielder, but there was Giovanni Dos Santos, Kitchen, Carrasco, whoever you want to call it, ahead of him. And then having Corona there to connect with Leggett has really helped LA. It was a late season signing. I think it was the week before their home opener, they signed Corona from Tijuana in Mexico, and he's just looked so good. He's fit in well. They have a couple. He's also, he's American, but just the way he links up with all the other players of different ethnicities, and he's always communicating, and he plays in the U.S. national team, so that's a quality signing as well.
Yeah, I think that you can see the quality of them. They both get called up to the U.S. men's team.
I was surprised when Leggett got the call up. Was I the only one?
But I think he's very versatile.
Start to the year, yeah. If he's played in the right position, which is I think is honestly his main position is defensive midfield. He's looked good in that one. When he plays out wide, he gets taken out of the play a lot, even though he's faster. But
I guess it was also that camp where they called up a lot of MLS players.
Yeah.
I think it's almost an annual thing that they do that. Like I think Tim Parker and Kakuta Mane went to one of those back when he was a Whitecap, I remember. So I think like he's getting a look in at that level. And I know the U.S. national team isn't in the best spot, but
I think like they need to look at their domestic players, right? And even like the Galaxy, right? To pivot back to MLS, you need good domestic players to do well.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't...
They have that Alvarez kid who's...
Efrain Alvarez,
Yeah.
he's really good.
He's a homegrown player, like in the same mold as, I guess, Davies and all that. A different position, he plays more centrally, but you're right. Like, teams are definitely looking more to that.
The teams that, if you look, like, I feel like if you look at the recent ones, the recent winners of the Supporter Shield or the MLS Cup, they've all had some very strong domestic programs, and they have strong domestic talent. Maybe the domestic talent only has one good year, but that's really all you need
To get a cup.
to get a cup, right?
Well, like, and to your point, even like if you look at LA compared to the rest of the league, they didn't spend the money that other teams did this offseason, despite Zlatan's contract. But they picked up another guy from Man City on loan, Aurelio Antuña. I think he has a goal this year, but he's a really good player, and I think you don't have to splash the cash in MLS to find quality signings anymore. I mean, teams still do, possibly low, but yeah, it's I think it's a new kind of regime, if you will, coming in MLS on top of the big spenders.
We kind of talked about their squad building efforts this season, but up until a few days before the season started, there was so much uncertainty around the team with the whole Giovanni Dos Santos situation, and I'm surprised that they've come out of that looking so strong to start the season.
Yeah. LA has that pull, and I think like you can find players of good quality who would not, maybe you wouldn't consider moving there, but you're like, hey, this is LA, you can sell that kind of, from that kind of management perspective. You can sell the lifestyle pretty easily to anyone.
Well, they had Zlatan on minimum wage last year.
So there you go.
Must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure where I heard this, but he is a big ambassador for Samsung. And what's Samsung's line of phones? They're called the Galaxy. So there might have been like a marketing thing in there.
There was a marketing thing?
I forget where I've heard
Samsung
that.
Are just
Yeah.
cringeworthy.
His commercials for it's not Volkswagen, the Swedish car company.
A Saab.
He does.
Saab?
Well, he
Or
does.
Volvo?
It must be Volvo. I think so. But he did these advertisements a while back, and they were so good. They were shot like indie films, and he was out in the mountains in the snow in like a big fur coat, like going ice fishing and all that.
Sounds like something Zlatan would do in his life.
Yeah, and it was when he was a Manchester United player, so I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great. Looking at the team and like more on the field, not the off-the-field marketing stuff.
How can you not talk
It's
about
LA, right? They have
LA.
They have a David Beckham statue outside the stadium. It's so Hollywood. It's amazing. But on the field, they play a 4-2-3-1, which isn't really the Hollywood of formations, but it works for them. I was looking at their choices. They've only played 4 games, but they've tried 3 different formations. But the only one with Zlatan in it is a 4-2-3-1, because it gets the best out of Zlatan when he can bring players in and like work off of those support players. And they're very strong down the middle. The only real threat out wide is Alessandrini.
Yeah. And I think another player that we didn't mention down the middle is Gideon as well, who they picked up again after, he seemed like forever playing with the Galaxy. So he's another option there. But again, like just... you're able to break them down like Portland did expertly on Sunday, and I think if the Whitecaps are able to control the midfield, pick their spots out wide, could find some success.
Yeah. Nick, do you like the strength that they have in the middle with Leggett, Corona, and then Zlatan at the end of it?
Yeah, I think Alessandrini is a fantastic winger. I mean, thinking a couple of years back when LA Galaxy were crap, he was like their best player.
Yeah, even with both Dos Santos, he was
still. Yeah, exactly. Like he was putting in the work, putting the team on his back, and I think there's less of that now. Obviously, with Zlatan being more center stage, and like people are there to support Zlatan. So I don't know, but he's still like he can score goals, he can set things up, he can take people on one-on-one, make the pass. Like fantastic. I think maybe one of the more. There's a lot of underrated people on the LA Galaxy team, especially because Zlatan has, such a big shadow.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Alessandrini is definitely one of those, like, in the shadow of Zlatan, but he gets the job done. I remember, you're right, back when LA were really bad, he carried the team, and
Yeah, like 11 goals and 12 assists back in like.
And he's a winger.
and he got a call up for that or something. I know he's Italian, but he's
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, there was some weird international thing going on, but he off the bench on the wide positions. There's Pontius and Boateng.
Yeah.
Both threats.
Yeah. Boateng is so
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
And Pontius is
he
crafty.
Experience.
Boateng can honestly start to, like, he's been on and off. He's one of those guys that you could start one game, the next game it's like, eh.
And Tina hasn't been great, so I could see a world where Boateng starts on the wide position.
Especially if you're going to run him at Nerwinski.
Yes, which seems to be a running thread.
Running thread, yes.
Not great to see, but I know we're doing a review of last game, but I thought he stood up pretty well to some pretty intense pressure.
Like Jordan Morris got switched over to his side.
Yeah,
right.
Like, so much so to the fact that when, like, hearing Brian Schmetzer talk after the game, Seattle coach, he was so frustrated with the fact they didn't switch play more, that Nerwinski shut them down so much on that left side that Morris was, like, basically nullified in the right wing. So good job by the Whitecaps, Nerwinski, and I think it was last in the first half and Vanilla in the second half, of shutting those guys down and taking anything away from them.
Vancouver's release play or getting out of those high pressure situations wasn't great, but he did get back.
There's a couple times where he caught back, like he went a couple times in the first half. I saw he went all the way to his own byline and cleared it.
Yeah,
but
props.
I mean, didn't get possession of the ball, but still got it out of a dangerous area.
Yeah. So if everything goes well against the Galaxy and we're able to control the midfield and get at the back line, it is a pretty promising back line to be able to attack. I think in terms of teams that we've played so far this season, probably one of the better, for the Whitecaps I mean, like, better opponents to face. It's made up of Felcher, who I still don't know how he's an MLS player. He's just had such calamitous games. I know he has, like, a great game now and then, but, like, as a fullback, he just looks so clumsy.
Their right back has just been rotating for 3 years now with Pelle Van Aanholt, and then I think Smith was in there now he's in the USL League too. It's just calamity at the back there.
The centre back pairing of Steres and Polenta, and then Skelvik on the left side. Who can overlap very well, to be fair. He almost set Zlatan up for a really nice goal on the weekend.
But yeah, it's not I think, like, if you were to look at the Galaxy, you would say that the back line isn't the most solid.
Compared to years past, they had Gonzalez, De La Garza,
for sure.
Van Damme, they used to be the team where they, like, defensive
solid all the way
up. But now it's just,
it's forward heavy.
Field,
It's very forward heavy.
Bingham in goal isn't exactly a.
I mean, he had some good years in San Jose, but he hasn't
don't get me wrong.
looked.
I think every goalkeeper we've talked about so far this season has been just a solid, experienced MLS goalkeeper. Right?
And that's what you want.
That is what you. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not like, you remember when we had David Ousted and there would be a one-on-one and you'd be like, yeah, Ousted would probably win that one. Like, it's not like no one's in that tier of goalkeeper so far that we've faced. Like,
besides Minone, who didn't have any MLS experience, but he's still an experienced keeper coming over from
Minone
Arsenal.
played with Arsenal and Sunderland, and he's a good, like, he's definitely, at least for now, his reputation is in that upper tier
of goalkeepers.
Like the goalkeeper David Bingham, not spectacular. Serviceable, absolutely.
Yeah, his service is good.
As we've learned from Mark Santos, why would you spend an international spot on a goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
It's just smart.
Or a DP slot,
Yes, that's also a very valid point. So
Colorado.
I think we can agree that the back line is probably the weakest point of the team.
I think they're still good in their own right. I mean, holding Portland to one goal is pretty good, but again,
the goal they let in was
pretty
was
not
bad.
Pretty. Yeah.
Well, it's bad from their point of view, but great.
It was
team
you're right.
play.
It was good team build up.
Just one more question before we go to the this week's game. We've played 4 teams so far. Where does this game rank on the difficulty scale?
Of the other teams, or just on
in terms of the opponents that the Whitecaps have had?
Second. I think second to Seattle. It's good that we're playing both these teams back to back because it's going to be so tough. The fifth.
You think that this is tougher than the
Houston?
Minnesota game and the Houston game?
I think so. I just think the way that if Zlatan does play, assuming what he said yesterday is true, I think he poses a threat that we haven't faced yet, and Dos Santos is on his game right now, and we haven't played Dos Santos when he's on his game, and I think that could cause some problems, but that's just my...
Yeah, I feel like we have been meeting teams that are playoff bound, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part.
RSL, but yeah.
For the most part. Like, there are teams that are pretty much playoff bound, and I would put LA Galaxy in that circle of teams that could easily make the playoffs.
Like, I don't think they'll go top, but I think they'll sneak in at the end there, like they always seem to do somehow.
I feel like this is the easiest game we've had so far. I don't know. It's just the feeling I have. Maybe because of the last result. That kind of, we're on like
building off of a positive trajectory.
So that gives you confidence.
A little bit.
That,
yeah,
fair enough.
Because it worked so well. Like, Seattle was the toughest game.
Yeah, by far.
And this isn't as tough as that. LA haven't been in the playoffs for a bit. You know, if we can contain Zlatan.
I think it's just like the fact, like as Nick said earlier, like the shadow of Zlatan, just the shadow of the Galaxy, bring that really like strikes fear into me and the Whitecaps. But I think if we play the way we did against Seattle and take our chances a little bit more.
If Daniil Henry can play the way he did against Seattle.
And get man of the match, because I think he deserved man of the match, but that's up for debate. We'll not anyways.
Very good.
Adnan played well, but yeah.
I think he played really well. But Adnan was just...
Like, his first half was outstanding, and then the second half he was a little more defensive, so it didn't allow him to get forward more. But.
Yeah. You're jumping way too much into the Vancouver preview, which is after this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, gentlemen, do you know who I am? Season standings, I think Peter is ahead.
Peter's the rookie is just high and above everyone else right now.
He has 2.
He's
Gideon
high and above
has 1.
Nick, and you can't.
Nick has none.
Yeah, Nick. Of
so
course
Nick, you need to take advantage of this occasion that he's not here.
I will try to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm starting the clues.
Okay.
Remember to say stop if you.
I thought you were talking about yourself.
I am an Irishman.
Remember to say stop if you have an idea of who the player is, because it gets competitive. We don't want to throw my water bottles around.
Sure.
And that would be much appreciated. I have 81 caps for the Netherlands.
Okay.
Tasty.
Stop. Gregory Vanderbilt?
No.
Shoot. How would he have 81 caps? They would be really
he was in the
desperate.
World Cup in 2010. The best
would be
ever.
really desperate.
Come on, I gotta support my team.
Speaking of 2010, I played in the 2010 final.
Stop. Nigel de Jong?
Nigel de Jong.
Yeah. One of the two. Let's go.
The last 2 weeks have been way too fast. I need to make these.
No,
these harder.
that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That's the way. It's 2-2 then. So Gideon has 2 and Peter has 2. Nick's still on 0.
I can still play spoiler.
You can. Yeah. Sure. You should just focus your efforts to doing mind games.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not going to make the playoffs.
And that was this week's Do You Know Who I Am?
Hi, I'm Mark Dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Alright guys, let's jump into it. It's Vancouver preview time. Last week, turning point. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, glad we're on the same page for that at least.
Hesitation, that's okay.
Yeah. It's 1 point, but it felt like 3. I know the penalty at the end kind of skewed the perspective a little bit.
At least VAR was correct.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think it was definitely...
the thing I noticed the most was the body language of the players, the Whitecaps, after the game. Like, it's a lot more, like, even though we've only had one home game, a lot more upbeat. They were, like, a lot more camaraderie, like, they were giving each other pats in the back. And that didn't really see that after Minnesota. Obviously, it was a loss, but you don't really see that in the first game of the year. But this game was evident. Like, after the game, players were, high-fiving. They're all happy, and I think that's really speaks to how the team is, in a mode right now.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with, the defensive responsibilities. It looked more like everybody was understanding what they needed to do,
was pitching in,
and everybody was executing what they needed to do. And, when everybody understands each other, then obviously...
I think you have to give credit to Dos Santos with the personnel he had available in midfield. Like, given Tybert, who we didn't know about, had an injury. Which was a smart for the Whitecaps not to,
I wonder if he's going to be available on Friday. We're recording on Tuesday, so sometimes we get information after we record. But separated shoulder sounds pretty
I mean, if
intense.
he could play on Saturday.
But they had to freeze him, right, to play.
Yeah.
Like,
So he'll probably be on the bench, just maybe a vocal kind
Yeah.
of thing, because he's scored against LA before. Maybe that could be a little super sub. But.
yeah, he had his breakout game, but that's back when he was a winger, though.
Yes.
kind
And
of a
his
long
hair
time
was
ago.
much different. But yes.
Yeah, I still watch that highlights sometimes. They're really good. They're
Yeah.
really good takes from the top
Cut
of the
in
box
from
or
the
something.
right and
yeah.
then on his left. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if he'll score. If he'll score again, he seems to never shoot.
He scored last year against Toronto. Remember that?
Yeah, he scored because,
Was that-
but he usually is playing more sitting midfield
I understand.
role.
It's his role. Going back to what you said about the players, being a bit more upbeat and all that. Dos Santos seems to talk a lot about mentality, and maybe some of that is finally, seeping into the players on the field and then the dressing room. If they have the right mentality, even if they play well and lose, you're not that destroyed by it, right? If you can see the improvement without the results, you're still able to take positives from that, right?
And I think it goes back to how he's been framing this whole thing since the very beginning, right? He's never been saying we're here to get results and we're here to win right away or anything silly like that. He's been talking about I have this plan. It's going to take a while to implement this plan. We have to practice the plan, blah, blah,
Yeah.
So, he's coming at it from, a reasonable perspective. And you can slowly see the parts are starting to gel together. I mean, it would have been obviously better if we had gotten all these pieces maybe earlier in the preseason.
Yeah. That's definitely a good point, and I think we'll be able to reflect on that more as the season goes
on. Yeah.
About the short preseason that a lot of these players had. We're talking about the team improving, but what's one area that you would like to see improve a bit more that hasn't been improving at the same rate as everything else?
I think it's not as much improvement as is. I'd like to see reap the rewards of it is striking, scoring goals.
I had finishing as mine, so it's definitely there.
I guess I'll pause on the Montero thing for a second, but just the way you look at the chances on Saturday against Seattle, they were half chances. They weren't open in the box. Nobody closed them down. It was just in general there was a lot of outside the box chances, a lot of crosses into the box that didn't find a head. So just those kind of things that need to be, I guess, positionally wise, changed up, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I just think finishing could be more crucial on this Friday.
Montero has one goal from the spot.
Yeah. It says its own story.
But to be fair, he's had worse service when he was last time a Whitecap.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? And he hasn't been. And I feel like he's gotten. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's in a better formation for him.
Yes, but I think he hasn't been playing very well. We have a question on that in a little bit. We'll get to that. It's kind of a can of worms that we can open up because I think we've all kind of come to the conclusion that it's in front of goal. That is the next phase of improvement we need to see for this team to be closer to where Marc Dos Santos wants it to be. Biggest factor that's kind of changed over the last few weeks has been Adnan coming in, making his debut with the man of the match performance. Nick, what do you like about what he brings from what you saw?
His ability to pick when to go forward is very good. If you contrast that with Nerwinski, you can see the difference. You can see the difference. You can see that he's going forward now. He's providing an option.
Yeah,
and he's not just always bombing forward. But then that might go down to tactical whatevers. But I think that's my impression of him. Is he's intelligent, smart, knows giving a veteran presence to that spot, and just knowing when to go forward at the right time to do maximum damage.
Yeah, and not only that, he did that expertly well, but a couple of times he made Leerdam look like a rookie. Leerdam's been around for a couple of years with Seattle, but he just got beaten twice in the first half. Another thing is size. How often have we seen size at the left back position? Harvey wasn't tall. DeYoung wasn't tall. Levi's is shorter, but he's they're all good players. I'm just saying it's nice to have that ability to head down a long ball from the right side for the opposition, and
they were looking for him off goal kicks as well as the target point,
which is interesting because apparently he's also very good at free kicks.
Yeah, I could see his delivery. We didn't get a chance to see it really.
See his delivery.
He had one cross that was more of a put it into the box rather than a
and
design
it's
cross.
A good player to use our favorite football cliche on. good touch for a big man.
Yep.
But usually they say that about strikers. This is a fullback.
Like
Yeah.
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 Guy who's like 300 pounds. Plays for Wimbledon.
Isn't Akinfenwa like amazing on FIFA, but in real life is not that great?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it.
Yeah, he is.
I don't like
video
starting
game
drills.
Speaking, I think earlier we talked about top-heavy footballers. People
Yeah.
should have a Google for that guy. The biggest progress you've seen. We kind of talked about the lack of progress earlier. Biggest progress in terms of, it could be in terms of anything for the team. Me personally, it's the midfield roles seem to have figured themselves out a little bit more. I know it's not perfect yet, but I like to see that Arise is definitely in control of the two players that he's supposed to work with, and as the captain, he damn well should be.
Not only like the midfielders, but Irise works so well with Crepeau. Like numerous times on Saturday, he's like, "Hey, like just calm down, play a ball to the left," or he kind of direct him a little bit, and that really helped Crepeau because a couple times his distribution in the first half was lacking, and then the second half, Irise kind of just kept him straight and told him, "Hey, do this, do that," and I think it was more about like suggestion, but it's still like the team building thing is really evident.
I like the defense is getting much better. It seems that they're in, yes, some of the defensive stops that they had to do last game, there's a goal-scoring opportunity there for the other team. But the fact that they're in a place to be able to make a play on them, I think that's a big improvement. I think from the last couple of weeks, maybe they were a step behind, or
They weren't close enough to influence.
Close enough to influence the play, exactly. Whereas this, it feels like, okay, now they're getting into the right spots, and if you're getting into the right spots, you're preventing goals from happening. And if they can get into even better spots, they can prevent those goals from even having to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
To Nick's point, there was a lot of good play. There's a couple times where I noticed Godoy, his distribution was either delayed or it just wasn't, like there's a couple times he just kicked it out for a throw-in, which doesn't help the attacking players and build up, and especially with those chances to go forward. But I think other than that, the defense is good. Henry and Godoy are kind of getting their mojo on. I don't know if Cornelius is injured or not on the weekend, but I think he could get a shout for Friday. We'll see. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll go through our proposed teams. But to start on that, what formation do we think the Whitecaps should go with?
Stick with the 4-3-3.
Yeah. I don't see why he would
I agree.
change.
Yeah, I don't think this is the kind of team you need to change it against. I know you need to make changes to stop specific people. I'm trying not to say Zlatan way more than we already have, but
Just let it all out.
Yeah, let my
Zlatan
fanboy.
jar or something.
Yeah, exactly. But he's the kind of player you would make a game plan for, whereas the rest of the team don't really inspire that much fear. So you should work on your system. So okay, 4-3-3. Let's start at the front this week because that's probably the hottest topic. We've had a lot of questions about this, so let's go to some of those right now. Rich Baldry asks, is Freddie not getting enough service, or is he just not playing well? I think he's not playing well.
I would say not playing well.
I think he's not playing well, but also like I said earlier, the half chance thing. There's 3 times in Seattle where he got a good ball in the box and blast on the right, and just like Marshall was right there or Kim were right on top of him, and I think that's just a matter of being a little bit quicker with the ball as well. But Montero's still battling. Like he's dropping deep as he usually does.
Yes.
He's trying to win the ball. Like it's not that he's not trying. He's just not scoring chances he might have been 2 years ago with the Whitecaps.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like he needs to just be a little bit sharper, one step ahead. That's why he was so good before, is because he just thought faster than the other players. And that seems to be missing.
When he came to Vancouver, like he was with Sporting, but he wasn't starting a whole lot.
No.
Which,
they have Bastos too, so starting for the Netherlands, he's not going.
So I think that could also play. Like timing is a big thing, but again, it's
match sharpness too.
2 months later.
Kind of speaking to that, Greg Petrie asks, "Have we seen enough from our days to give him the start?"
I mean,
no.
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
There's that fact of give him maybe 45, 50 minutes and then pull the old Robinson and bring on another player at the 50-minute mark.
Yeah,
but
I could see a 55-35 split.
That's why you have Montero as well,
because he came on with 10 minutes left in the Seattle game.
But you look at the chances that happened in the Seattle game.
Very fair.
Happened when he was on the field.
Very fair,
right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And a lot of it was with Venuto as well on the right. So.
Yeah, so maybe there's a good connection, and if that's a connection, why not try it in this game but for longer?
Venuto is another one who was itching to get there. We've had a really good question about the starters and the bench players. We'll get to that in a little bit, but he's definitely one of those players that's kind of in between, because he's looked good when he's.
He reminds me of Teixeira in a way, kind of. But
yes,
a
little
more
bit
skillful.
better.
Yeah.
Teixeira scored a goal for his new team the other day.
No.
Yeah, it was a really nice counter-attacking goal. I think his team are about to get relegated, though.
Oh.
So, sorry about that,
unfortunate.
Christian. Another question on the striker position, I should say. Mike Higashi has asked, why would the Whitecaps pursue another striker? Maybe he's heard a rumor or
Oh,
something.
the Kyle Larin rumor?
Oh, yes, that was
I
it.
did think
That's
about
the
that
Kyle
today,
Larin.
but I'm like, is it a matter of spending the money because you're panic mode? I don't think that's panic mode.
It's more
Any
like,
stretch of the
this guy
imagination.
has become available. He's Canadian. He's
But
potentially
you think,
better
from
than
whatever
what you
source
have.
I saw, it was about like a multi-million-dollar deal. I'm
Yeah,
like, that
$2 million was what
Doesn't
I saw.
I'm like,
make
I don't-
sense for
Well,
Whitecaps.
there's also the Davies money burning a hole in the Whitecaps' pocket that they have to spend.
But
you know?
But
would that
to
not
put
scare a
it
guy
towards
like our
Larin.
days? Like they said, that
Oh
was
yeah,
an investment.
oh yeah.
So
I think it would mess up your.
Yeah.
Like I think that Larin coming in potentially signals the end for Montero, even though he just got back. So it's not
Yeah.
a wise move in terms of your team chemistry. But if you were the Whitecaps top brass and you saw a player like that become available, it's about. I know it's bad timing, but an asset like that, which means so much more to a Canadian team than it does to an
Yeah,
American team.
true.
It kind of reminds me of Blondell last year when I think we got Blondell before Kamara, and then
Yeah,
kind
he
of
came in
spooked him a
really
little bit.
early.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was like December or November or something like
Yeah,
that, and then
yeah.
Kamara got picked up, and it was like,
Oh yeah,
And then-
don't we still have Blondell technically in the
yeah,
Yeah,
he's on
he's-
loan.
he's still-
He's on loan.
somewhere?
Watch Pito.
Oh man.
He did score a nice goal in his first game. Why am I talking about ex-Whitecaps players? Goal
Stop it, Joe.
Yes.
Don't go down that road.
Yeah, it's an addiction. Yeah, those were the three questions on the striker position. You guys think our days should get a look
for
this
sure.
weekend?
I think he proved it enough with the time, and at some point you have to give him a start to see what he can actually do.
Yeah. I could see Montero still starting because I could see that Dos Santos doesn't want to disrupt,
Portuguese mafia.
and he should stay away from commercials. And also there's kind of this seniority thing that's in place, which both players seem okay with for
Yeah,
now.
but-
Would you want to disrupt that early? I
Well,
guess?
when you start, when Montero was talking preseason, he said I would be okay if our days was if we were to go back and forth, and that
Yeah.
speaks volumes to his
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah.
But again, if you're a striker and you get replaced, what does that do for your form? It might not be good, but might not make it better if
Yeah.
you're on the bench.
I just think it needs to be handled with care, much like everything with the team. It needs to be considered about what it means to the player that you're dropping.
I was also
Yeah.
thinking about a 4-4-2 with both of them up top, but I mean, then you have no one to bring off the bench, and
yeah,
I don't think
and your
it's fair to
midfield
throw-
numbers are thrown off.
to throw Theo Bear in there. That's a tough one, but yeah, it'll be hard to have him on the bench if they do too.
Yeah.
But I don't think they will.
Let's talk about the winger positions, which are the next thing we can discuss. I think I would like to see Venuto and Bangura.
Here's the thing, that has been. I heard people talking after the game, oh, why we haven't seen Venuto? We saw it in Houston, and Bangura scored. I think, no, it was either he subbed off or one of them. But I want to see Reyna back in, just because
Reyna.
he brings Bangura and Venuto are fast in the wings, but
they're
Reyna
the
has the
same-
ability to draw inside and put a ball out to the wing rather than Bangura and Venuto kind of just run up and down, and Reyna's able to cut inside and kind of hold them behind our days.
Yeah, I would agree with what Gideon is saying. They're both very fast, and
Yeah.
they're basically the same type of player. Just
Don't get me wrong, I want to see that happen, but I just don't think
This
we need
is a
more
game.
creativity. After not scoring a goal last weekend at home, I just think Reyna could be thrown in there.
Where do you think the depth chart? How do you think it stands right now in terms of wingers?
Out wide?
Yeah,
I think it's
Bangura,
Bangura,
Reyna.
Reyna, Venuto, and then who else do we have? I forget now. Adnan could be considered PC.
yeah, PC.
Yeah,
he played
started
for-
there on the weekend.
He didn't look great, but I think
No.
that
He didn't.
yeah.
It's just another option that you could play him at.
and Adnan. I think Adnan could play up the wing too. So.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I think that's your destined three. I
Wide
think that's the way
target
they
man.
need to.
a wide target. Ooh. Don't entice me like that. I would like to see Bangura and Venuto or Reyna. You make a valid point about it. He brings something different.
Yeah.
He can turn on the jets when he needs to, but he also has the ability to cut in.
If
But
you would-
again, we talked earlier about LA's strong midfield. Maybe you want to stay away from that. So you go with someone who's just all about the width.
But I think that creativity. We need the creativity, especially considering the way that they want to play.
And this kind of ties in with the midfield. Like, as good as Imbaum is at creating, I think Reina just adds that extra, connection up front, whereas Imbaum can find him rather than him trying to go weave his way through the.
It's all positive though, right?
It's good. It's a good.
You're trying
thing
to
have.
optimize things, not damage control. It's kind of a nice position to be in.
He adds much more, I think.
This is not a headache; it's a migraine for selection for Marcos Santos.
And we like those migraines.
We love those.
More for us to talk about. Yeah. Let's go to the midfield now. So if it's going to be a 4-3-3, we'll have that very narrow midfield three. We'll have Arise, definitely.
Yep.
But the other two positions are pretty much up for grabs. If we think Tybert's going to not play because of his separated shoulder, which I can't emphasize must be so painful to play
Then
with.
Felipe, because Rose, I think he was
Rose is
dressed.
probably not there. So Felipe and Ingbong then?
Ingbong,
yeah. So we did have a question coming in about the midfield, asking, does anyone think that our central midfield three should be Arise, Rusty, and Ingbong, provided everyone's healthy? That comes in from David Veronesi.
I think that's your ideal three. Like your strongest, I've liked Felipe's play, don't get me wrong, but I think Imbaum and Russell kind of add that extra little bit of defensiveness, and as well as Typer won't get forward, but Imbaum as well can be there and kind of go more to what Felipe adds offensively.
Yeah, I do think Rusty doesn't get forward enough, and Arise is the guy who's supposed to stay back. So if you can add that to his game a little bit,
are you saying that's too defensive then? To have?
You have two defensively minded players where you need someone like Ingbom can do the running up
Felipe
and down.
Do that
more than Tybert for
but is
sure.
he defensive enough?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
So that's like the toss up. And Rose as well. Like he's thrown into the mix once he's healthy.
But Rose was actually, when he was on the field for the times that he's played, he's actually looked quite good.
Yeah, the Houston game, I really liked his play, but obviously the concussion happened.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So if we think it's going to be Arise, Ingbom, and Felipe in the midfield, so then it's I like the look of that. It's pretty attacking. Like we said, Felipe is definitely more
and it's
attacking-minded.
It's a battling.
And according to Ingbom, he hasn't hit, he's not happy with his performances yet. So
I'm excited then.
I'm super excited. I think he's been great already, to be completely honest. Let's go to the back line. We've had a question in from Jake McGraw. Do we need a new right back? Nerwinski's looked pretty shaky.
No, I don't think so.
I think we need a good backup right back.
Yeah,
Sutter is
as good as Sutter is, but
yeah.
if you look at the Adnan, it's a shrewd signing till June. It's a tryout. I think he looked good. I'm not saying let's extend it till July or whatever, but I think he has a point of when you have that depth, because we have basically three right backs or left backs right now. We only have two right backs. So come summertime, you don't want to have
injuries.
You don't want to have Levi's or Hero playing out wide right. You want to have a guy to be able to be there, say Sutter or Nerwinski getting forward. We've seen Nerwinski play good before.
Yeah, it could be a form thing. You're right.
Remember the game against New York City a couple years ago when he just put a ball into Reina and Reina just headed that's the Nerwinski I like.
We need that. We need the delivery.
Yeah, and but he did have, if I remember correctly, I thought he had a good delivery last game. There was one,
but to be fair, he's played against so many good left backs already this year,
and teams have been really going at it.
Yeah.
I can't blame his lack of offensive.
What I would say
because
is
he needs to be defensively aware.
He's maybe bent, but he's not broken.
Okay, transitioning to the center defense position. I don't think we need to talk about goalkeeper anymore because Crepeau seems to be the go-to guy. Yeah, Henry and Godoy looked really good. I don't think you can break them up. Any comments on that?
The height for Cornelius maybe an added, but I think Godoy, you can't break up that relationship right now.
And how do we think Zlatan should be dealt with in terms of defensive responsibilities?
I think communication.
Hopefully they do that already.
Even
they
more.
don't talk to each other the whole game.
I think Arise will have to be covering him a little bit more as well.
Yeah, Arise blocked the supply.
Right.
It's not like you need a high line against Zlatan because he's not going to burst in behind. But again, his height could be he could get a ball over the top, but he's not going to run by, so the speed thing doesn't really need to be there. But
just be ready for that more the battles to win those physical.
Ideally we can get Henry on him more all the time, basically.
Play how we did against Rui Diaz, even though Zlatan's tall.
Oh, it's such a different player though. Zlatan's gonna try and back into you and then turn you,
and shoot.
Right? So you need to be super strong and be able to block his path, you know, kind of.
If he doesn't play, I think this whole episode is just going to go.
Oh my god, I really hope he plays. Based on his comments today.
Yesterday,
he talked
he talked bad about the turf.
He said
turf doesn't bother me. I could still play regardless. So
He's dissing the turf.
Nick, you're so defensive about the turf.
And
the turf is one of Whitecaps' greatest defensive weapons.
Should we talk about if Zlatan doesn't start, what who's going to play there?
Bradford Jameson, the 55th, will come in, and the Whitecaps sent out an email today.
No, I think it's the 4th.
Whitecaps take on Zlatan and Galaxy, so obviously there's a bit of PR going on, and as well, probably foreshadow that he'll play, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Would be nice. It would be funny if he didn't, right?
Yeah, it would be funny if he didn't.
It'd be like a Davies kind of thing when, PR the crap out of...
To be fair, he was in the stadium. He just wasn't anywhere near the field. Davies. He was in the box. Yeah, I'm going to the game. Nick's going with me. Gideon, you'll be there.
I'll be there.
Yeah, full AFTN house, hopefully.
Minus Peter. I think he still
goes. I'm pretty sure Peter will be there too.
Right,
actually, no, I know because we're going to go for a beer with Peter.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's okay, guys.
I'll
be seeing you next week.
Hate to deliver the news. Live on out.
I was expecting it. This is live reaction, guys. No tears were shed.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad the listeners could be here for the start of Gideon's mental breakdown. At least we have it on.
Before that show.
Without further ado, let's go to the prediction game. Gideon, you got no points because you weren't here last week, and I forgot to ask you for your predictions.
Okay, guys. Well, we got here this week, so it's a common theme.
Yeah, I'm really putting the boot in on Gideon today. Let's have a look at what Peter said. He said both teams would score in the second half. That did not happen. He said that Hwang would have 88% pass accuracy. He actually had 100% pass accuracy.
Because I put down a wow there.
Yeah, it was very impressive. He did come off the bench with like 20 minutes to go or something.
But still, 20 minutes of 100% accuracy?
Absolutely. And a set-piece goal didn't happen, so Peter did not get any points. Nick, you said that Ladera would get an assist. That did not happen. You said Arise would get 4 tackles. He had 3. You said Crepeau would make 4 saves, and that was also 3. So because you were so close, we're going to give you 1 point for the
thank you, so generous.
Yes. I am a gracious God.
We are not worthy of great
Joe.
I just don't want to run away with this too much.
Right.
I said that Reina would get an assist. No, didn't happen. I said a red card, also did not happen. 42% possession. They had 42.9, which is within our 2.5% buffer.
That's very good.
I think it helps that Alonso wasn't playing. There's no red card, but that's just a conversation for the other day.
Yeah, Waston too. I would have said 2 red cards
probably
if they were both playing. So I got 1 point. The season standings, I'm on 5, Nick is on 2, Peter and Gideon are on 0.
Relegation.
Yes. We should relegate one of you guys to... I'm not going to say another podcast. That would be underneath. But
is there a podcast below?
It just keeps going downhill for me today, guys.
Yes. No, you get relegated to the Sunday show.
Ooh.
I don't think that's a relegation, though.
That's not really a relegation.
Hey, it's all about perspective.
That's true.
Gideon, let's get your predictions this week.
Okay, so I have Dos Santos of the Jonathan variety, not Mark. Will have 4 interceptions. Ardace will receive a yellow card, and Mbom will have an assist because he is due for one.
Okay.
I don't think he has one yet. Whatever.
Nick, your predictions?
I'm going to say, can I choose Zlatan wonder goal?
Okay, but you have to have.
That's a given. Any goal he scores is like godly. Like
okay,
I think we will send out a straw poll
later.
Was that a Zlatan wonder goal?
Zlatan goal wonder goal or not?
Yeah.
Was it just an average goal?
So I will allow it.
We'll allow it.
Okay. No comments were made over here.
And I want to say I think Arise will have 84% pass accuracy in the game.
This is damn pass accuracy.
Yeah, I know. And I'm also going to go, I think Lass will have 1 key pass.
Oh, return like the key pass.
5 on the weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't
Peter's predictions, may he rest in peace. Ardace will score, Godoy will make 3 clearances, and LA will have 56% possession.
That I could agree with.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the Whitecaps will have 50% possession. I think Ardace is going to score, and I think Crepeau will make 4 saves. So, take notes, guys.
Okay.
What really happens is I listen to your guys' predictions, and then I refine them a little bit, and that's why I end up with so many points.
Or you just keep track of your own points. And,
That's true. I am also...
He actually has given himself a bunch of extra points.
It's like the ones from last year. I mean, I had one minus 15 last year. So.
I'm like one of those dictatorships that counts their own votes. Like they have elections, and then the people who count the votes are still. Yeah.
It's democratic in a way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone cares enough to go back and
all is
cross-check.
allowed in the host of DC, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, there was that really good question that we forgot to answer. Okay, it's really good, so we're definitely going to go back to it.
Okay.
We've had 4 games to watch the players. This one is from Friggin' Ernie's. Great name. 4 games to watch the players. Is there a clear differentiation between starters and bench players? Who do you think is in the tier of bench players? Great question.
I don't know. I don't think so. If I can't answer that question right away,
We've
I don't
had,
think
we've
there's
had Sutter, who's kind of...
I think he's a bench player.
Yeah, he's a bench player.
Good-
McMath, just by default, he's kind of a bench player.
Mm-hmm.
Ardays is challenging.
Yeah.
Ardays is in the in-between. Venuto is in the in-between.
Yeah.
Rose is probably in the bench.
In between. I think he's in the in between.
Coline was on the bench for the first game. I haven't seen him play MLS, like, obviously after the Davies debut. But
Yeah, he's still a bit too young to really be... Yeah, and like the starters are pretty much self-explanatory, but
Do we
like...
miss anyone? I don't want to miss anyone. I feel,
No,
excluded.
I think that's pretty...
But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think it's getting clearer for
it's
sure.
clear, but it's not there.
Oh, PC is probably in the bench as well.
But
Reina,
Cornelius.
yeah, Cornelius and Reina are somehow on the bench, even though they're probably good enough to be
starting.
starting as well. Yeah, it's not as clearly defined as in years past, but I think it's definitely emerging.
It's good to have, though. Like, again, we talked about it. It's good to have all this depth and option
definitely.
and migraine.
And the fact that there's so many players in between means that there's challenging
for spots
going on as well.
And things like that. Yeah.
No, great question. I just thought we should get to it before we
Good
finish
question,
up.
friggin' Ernie's.
Yeah. I think after 10 games we can look back at this question and we might have a completely different perspective.
I think so too. And that's just the way he's coaching.
That's just the way it is.
MDS style, baby.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for listening to episode 334 of the AFTN podcast. Nick, where can people find you on Twitter?
At SpaceAgeRobot56.
At _Gideon Hill on Twitter.
And you can find me at JoeDCVan. Enjoy the game.
One day I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then, there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine.